Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. Let's go ahead and check in on the Russians. And the plot thickens. Russian generals supported Wagner mutiny, but backed out according to US intelligence. And it's not just any general, it's General Armageddon, General Surovikin. And he was arrested by the FSB on Saturday. He's not been seen by anybody since then. And allegedly, what's going on is Prigozhin gave him a heads up. Prigozhin told General Surovikin he was planning a coup or rebellion, hoping General Surovikin would join in on it. Now, maybe General Surovikin never had any intention on going along with Prigozhin's coup, but he knew about it, and he didn't warn the FSB, and he didn't warn Putin. That makes him a traitor. There are other Russian generals that perhaps Prigozhin contacted, warning them that he was planning something. None of them came forward. None of them warned Putin. And I knew something was up with General Surovikin because on Saturday he released this video. And this is a senior general in the Russian military filming a video in a command bunker, and he felt the need to have an assault rifle on his person at all times. Did he not think this command bunker was secure, was safe? What was this guy so worried about? And he probably was worried about the FSB because he knew that he was screwed. And Surovikin is not some mid-level colonel. He was second in command in Ukraine and was first in command before Putin removed him in February. Having him out of the fight would be good for Ukraine. Having Russian soldiers pissed off about having him out of the fight would be even better. So I'm sure there are other officers that like General Surovikin and are loyal to General Surovikin. Perhaps they don't like Shoigu, and nobody's actually seen or heard of Gerasimov in a week now. But as long as the Russians are devouring each other, all of this is good news for Ukraine. So there are purges underway in Russia, the Russian security apparatus, after Prigozhin's mutiny. I'm sure the FSB has their hands full going through records and communication logs, trying to figure out perhaps, did Surovikin talk to other Russian officers about what Prigozhin was planning? It failed. Prigozhin's rebellion failed. But it's still good news for Ukraine. And I want to share this clip of Kremlin State TV. They've been in damage control all week, repeating this narrative that Prigozhin's rebellion would have been crushed anyways. So here's this guy. He's a member of the State Duma. And this is what he has to say. There would have been no loss anyways, because in that short period of time, while the Wagner group was marching on Moscow, we had time to prepare two lines of defense. One along the Oka River and one along Moscow Big Ring Road. We mobilized all the forces that were in Moscow and its environment. We were ready to put up a fight. I talked to those officers with whom the integrated crews were formed. They were academy students. They said, well, we can't betray the president. That's fascinating. So to stop the Wagner group, the Russian government had to force mobilize academy cadets from the military academies. They had 18, 19, 20-year-olds who had never seen combat, forming two lines of defense around Moscow to repel the Wagner group. How well do you think that battle would have gone? So we've gone from the Russian military taking Kyiv in 3 days to we built two lines of defense around Moscow. But in general, with Prigozhin and with Surovikin, there's countless hours of Kremlin propagandists praising these guys, saying how incredible they are. And now that they're traitors to Putin, enemies of the state, all of these past statements look pretty foolish for Olga, Margarita, and Soloveyov. So what is the Wagner group up to? Wagner camp under construction in Belarus. And the more I think about this, the more I believe that This is a really good deal for all these Wagner mercenaries. To just go to Belarus and sit out the rest of this war. They don't have to die. They don't have to do any fighting. For everybody online saying that this is a distraction and the Wagner group is going to attack Kyiv from the north, never going to happen. The Belarusian military and the Wagner group get all of their supplies, all their ammunition and equipment from the Kremlin, from the Russian government. And I don't see Putin allowing these guys to get any supplies, any military equipment, for as long as Putin remains in power. So if these Wagner mercenaries want to avoid the war, go to this camp in Belarus and just hang out until the war is over. You can then go back to Russia when a new government is formed and go back to whatever life you want to live. Not bad. And Putin screwed up. Putin accidentally admitted the thing he's not supposed to say. And for the last 8 years, the Wagner group has been operating in the Middle East, operating in Africa, and Putin consistently has been saying they're a private military group. We have nothing to do with these guys. When obviously the Russian military had everything to do with them. But Putin, being defensive, claimed this. Existence of the entire Wagner group was completely funded by the Russian government. The Russian Ministry of Defense, from the government budget, we fully funded this group. He wasn't supposed to say that. Here's Putin being careful in previous statements. This is from February 7th, 2022. Putin told the press, I already made a statement in regards to Wagner. I said that the Russian state has nothing to do with them. So the Russians want plausible deniability. The Wagner group is their expeditionary force that goes to Africa and the Middle East and commits war crimes. Putin wanted to say, oh, we have nothing to do with those guys. They're privates. When in reality, of course, the Kremlin fully funds and arms all of these people committing war crimes all over the world. It's the Russian government committing war crimes all over the world. Speaking of war crimes, we have to talk about this sad event. Russian missile attack on Kramatorsk restaurant leaves scores of casualties. The strike on a popular pizza restaurant in eastern Ukraine leaves at least 11 dead and more than 60 injured. The death toll as of this morning is actually risen to 12. And it's terrible. This was a pizzeria. This was a pizza restaurant in Kramatorsk. And the Russians deliberately targeted it at dinner time with 2 Iskander ballistic missiles. The pictures and videos online are horrifying. There were children celebrating a graduation in the basement of the building. They were buried alive, and rescue crews did everything they could to save these children. For a report on the ground, here's a local resident of Kramatorsk describing the events of the day.
Шок был и сразу вниз, а потом мы думали, лучше не вниз, но уезжаю. Через окно и на улице были. Везде кровь, стекло, видел люди на улице. Даже маленький бэби мы видели совсем с кровь.
На твои поездки сюда не повлияет это будет?
Или мы еще будем тут?
Да.
Сейчас мы видели только больше, что нужно помочь.
What's the response? We just need to help more. And as improbable as this is, Roman and his sister were at this restaurant. They immediately took out their cameras right after the missiles landed and started filming videos. I'll post this video down below and on the community tab of my YouTube channel. You can see Roman and his sister trying to help people responding to the missile attack. And the Kremlin says they only target military targets after an obvious civilian strike on a pizzeria. And Olga went on state TV and said the missiles were aimed at NATO instructors and the strike's objectives were achieved. So I guess these twin 14-year-old girls who died in this attack are the NATO instructors that the Kremlin is talking about. These girls were going to turn 15 in September. Now they're forever 14. So Russia spent $6 million on 2 Iskander missiles to blow up a pizzeria to kill a bunch of 14-year-old girls. I am seething with rage right now, guys. If ISIS blew up a pizzeria full of civilians with a car bomb, much less a ballistic missile, there'd be zero hesitation to call the crime by its name: terrorism. It's long past time to declare the Russian Federation a state sponsor of terror. It's been almost a year and a half. Why has this not happened? The economic explanation is that if the United States declares the Russian government a state sponsor of terror, then no company can do business with them. Right now, Procter & Gamble sells toothpaste and baby formula in Russia. They wouldn't be able to do that if the United States government declared the Russian government a state sponsor of terror. This is the honest political answer for you guys. The reason why Western governments don't want to do this is because they want to maintain as much support for Ukraine as possible, and if all Western companies had to completely pull out of Russia, this would cause economic interruptions and devastation for the executives and employees at all these Western companies. Perhaps those people would then join the chorus of the Kremlin bots, saying, "We need to end this war now. Ukraine needs to give up their territory." By allowing stupid companies like Red Bull to continue to operate in Russia, their executives and employees are not putting pressure on Ukraine to give up territory. That's the honest political reason why. But at some point, we just have to say fuck it and do this. Just completely wall off Russia, make all of our people and corporations pull out, and make Russia a larger version of North Korea. Here's the motivation for the soldiers fighting on the front lines. They're signing all of their artillery shells for Kramatorsk. And here's the Russians. I want to share this video with you guys. So they're singing to that stupid song by Shaman or whatever his name is, and these are the sisters, wives, and daughters of the Russian elite in Moscow and St. Petersburg cheering on this war. When their Russian military bombs a pizzeria and kills a bunch of 14-year-old girls, these women celebrate. These people are sick, and it's going to take a century for Russia's reputation to recover from all the crimes and atrocities that they've committed. How these women sleep at night knowing what their fathers, brothers, and husbands are currently doing in Ukraine, it's just sick. So let's check in on the front lines, and Ukraine continues to make progress, slow and steady. But in the last couple days, they've actually been making a lot of progress around the city of Bakhmut. They're putting serious pressure on the village of Klashivka and Berkivka. So if they can start surrounding the city of Bakhmut, perhaps, the Ukrainian military in the coming weeks or months could retake this city. In the meantime, the Ukrainian military is going to continue hammering Russian supply lines. 6 explosions in Tokmak were recorded last night, as well as strikes on Mikhailivka and Melitopol and the coastal village of Primorsk. These back areas are where Russia is holding all their reserves, their ammunition depots, their supply warehouses. Ukraine is going to continue targeting these with HIMARS and Storm Shadows to cut off the supplies of the soldiers on the zero line. And here's an interesting clip I want to share with you that aired on Kremlin State TV, because this guy, he's a member of parliament, a member of their State Duma. He's going to reveal something interesting. This is what he has to say. The next point is training of junior officers. It is no secret that junior officers are leaving the ranks because of injuries, illnesses, and other reasons. So junior officers are lieutenants and captains. In the United States military, we call them CGOs, company grade officers. And he's saying that they're leaving the ranks in alarming numbers because of injuries. Injuries from what? Illnesses. Illnesses how? And other reasons. Those other reasons are death, getting HIMARSed at alarming rates inside Ukraine. We had to have an early graduation in April. The next one won't be until December. So if you're not familiar with military rank structure, there are enlisted people with non-commissioned officers, sergeants, and then there are commissioned officers. These are the lieutenants, captains, majors, lieutenant colonels, colonels. So Russia has military academies, just like the United States does. And I'm guessing you have to go there and earn a 4-year degree in order to commission as an officer. So he's saying that Russia's military academies, they're graduating cadets early in order to get them to Ukraine into the war. So he's saying that they're short on junior officers right now, and the next graduation won't be until December, but they might just start graduating people early. Nevertheless, we're short today. It's good practice for the sergeants, the ones who've performed well. They get promoted to the rank and go straight into the ranks. So he just admitted that Russia is currently giving field promotions to sergeants. In the Air Force, we have staff sergeants, tech sergeants, and master sergeants. Those are the NCOs. He's saying that they're being given field promotions without going to a commissioning academy, and they're just being promoted to lieutenants because the Russian military is so short on officers right now. Because it was necessary at that time, after all, the Great Patriotic War, as well as other combat operations. In the Great Patriotic War, we trained a sergeant for 4 months and an officer for 6.5 months. So during World War II, they would train new officers in 6.5 months. Normally, it's a 4-year degree at a military academy, but Russia is losing so many officers so fast, they're just pushing these 18, 19, 20-year-old cadets through the pipeline in order to get them to Ukraine as fast as possible. That's a pretty interesting thing to admit on Kremlin state TV. So let's get to the good news for Ukraine. Lithuania announced they will be sending 2 of their NASAMS anti-aircraft systems to Ukraine. Thank you so much, Lithuania. Naval strike missiles may be headed to Ukraine. NSMs are operated by the US Navy, and these wouldn't be coming from the United States. Poland currently has a stockpile of these. If the United States approves the transfer, Poland can give these missiles to Ukraine, so thank you, Poland. US replenishes Kyiv's Bradley fighting vehicle force. This was in the latest security assistance package from the United States worth $500 million. 30 additional Bradley infantry fighting vehicles and 25 Stryker APCs. This is why the trained operators, the human lives, the soldiers, matter way more than the vehicles. If a vehicle is destroyed, we can always send more, but the training and the expertise, how to operate them, is what is more valuable. In addition, the United States sent the usual good stuff: HIMARS missiles, MANPADS, Patriot air defense missiles. Here's an interesting Reuters poll about public opinion here in the United States. The Kremlin has stated this, that their war objective is to freeze the conflict, drag it out as long as possible, and wait for elections in Western companies that will lead to candidates pulling support for Ukraine. That's their master plan. But it's going in the wrong direction. Among Americans, support for providing weapons to Ukraine has increased sharply from 46% in May to 65% now. So generally about greater than 70% of Americans support Ukraine, but what percent were willing to send additional weapons? F-16s, ATACMS missiles, Abrams tanks. And since the United States announced that Ukrainian pilots will be trained on F-16s, I think a lot of people just changed their opinion and they said, I think the fastest way for this war to end is just to give Ukraine everything. Give them Abrams, give them F-16s, give them ATACMS. So this jumped 20% in 2 months from 46 to 65. So that's very good numbers for Ukraine. Here's an interesting story I just want to quick mention. Zelensky called for the legalization of medical cannabis in Ukraine. All of the world's best practices, solutions, no matter how difficult or unusual they may be, must be applied in Ukraine so that all Ukrainian citizens do not have to endure the pain, stress, and trauma of war. For any of my Ukrainian viewers, just do it. Here in the United States, all of these green states have legalized both recreational and medical marijuana. The blue states, it's just medical. But nothing bad has happened here in the United States. In my opinion, people who abuse alcohol to manage stress or trauma, that's much worse for your body than cannabis. So, 100% Ukraine should legalize medical marijuana if it can, help people manage their pain. Final couple feel-good clips. The first one might not make sense to a lot of people, but a bridge between Kherson and Mykolaiv that the Russians blew up was finally finished, and I just want to share this video of a happy commuter being able to finally use this bridge again.
Вот какая красота. А еще пару месяцев тому развалины были.
You don't know how much you enjoy a bridge until you can't use it anymore, so infrastructure is very important. Final clip I want to share with you is a Ukrainian defender visiting one of his buddies in the hospital.
Вот он подкрался. Почиваю. Привет. Нет, это там все русское.
Боже, я такий радий тебе бачити.
Да, я тоже, кстати.
Свіженький, гарненький такий.
That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.